Hey all, welcome to Parker's Reefs. On today's episode, I'm going to take you through the 16-month update of my Dream Reef Tank. Alright, thank you for joining me on another episode of Parker's Reefs. It has been some time since I've done an update on my Dream Reef Tank. In fact, it was 2 months ago that I said that it had gone through some disasters, and it absolutely had, particularly with iodine. And I have to say, I get asked all the time how things are going with this tank to this day, particularly after that iodine spike. So I figured today was the day I'd stand in front of the tank and walk you through what I've been up to in this system, because there has been quite a few little incremental changes that all add up to be a decent video. So strap yourself in, let's run through the good and the bad that's been happening on this here Dream Reef Tank. Alright, starting with some of the smaller items, but it really has made the top of the tank look a lot nicer. Just a little bit of maintenance. I actually cleaned the brace, both the bottom and the top, although the bottom got some water residue on it again pretty quickly, but having the top of the brace cleaned, and I gave the NVS Aquarium's acrylic, or sorry, the polycarbonate lids and mesh lids, bit of a wash outside, made sure that it was all nice and clean, no salt creep, no algae growing on them, and they look brand new again. I also tidied up the Ecotech MP60 controllers, because previously they were just mounted with the double-sided Velcro, and whilst it sort of works, after a while that double-sided tape tends to let go, and then your controllers are swinging in the breeze. Personally, I can't stand that, so I picked up 2 different types of MP60 controllers. 2 were 3D printed, thank you to Chris for that, appreciate it very much. 2 of them were the original equipment Vortec steel brackets. They work just as well, but the 3D printed ones are probably a little bit cheaper, so I'm trying both out. I don't think there's going to be any huge difference between the 2, but the main thing is it has tidied up my MP60 controllers. They're now mounted nice and firmly, plus you can just lift them out of those controllers and all is good. Next up, I actually went about mounting my Tunzi Stream 3 with some lock line. I previously did a video on how I used some titanium bolts and some bits and pieces, some of the other Tunzi holders to mount them, like the one in this corner over here, with a little bit of PVC, just so I could actually mount them to the Euro brace. I did find after some time, and you might see from this one every now and then, that they're just probably about 1 centimeter too close to the surface of the water, and every now and then it'll vortex in a big hunk of air and micro bubble throughout the tank, which is not a big deal. I don't really care if there's micro bubbles in there, but it does just make this huge gulping noise like Barney Gumble's in the house, and it scares my daughter and wife. So I went about mounting this end on the Vortec with some lock line, just like I had done with all of my Kessels, and it worked an absolute treat. I did run out of the the lock line mounting plates, so that I couldn't do it on this one, but never fear, I've got in touch with Modular Hose and I've got a whole heap coming out, so I can mount some more things, not just the Tunzi Stream 3 at that end, like the one up here, because I think we should lock line the world. It just mounts stuff so incredible. I've also ordered a elbow so that I can get this Kessel A500X with the 90-degree elbow to match this one, rather than using the Y piece like it currently does, just to tidy that up a little bit. And whilst I was up there, I also tidied up the cable to the motorized hood doors. That used to dangle down and then go through and up. I just drilled a little hole and put that through, so the cables all look nice and tidy above the tank. And it's small little changes like this that really, in my opinion, elevate the tank. Now when I have the hood open like I do here to just let some airflow through, I personally just feel so much better seeing the cables neat and tidy. Could I do more? Absolutely. And will I do more? Probably over some time, but for now, I think it's looking pretty tidy. Alright, next up on the changes of this tank, I had one of these 35-degree Kessel reflectors that I got with the A500X Kessels that I decided not to use on the A500s, because I kind of want them to give maximum sort of spread there in the middle. So I originally put it on this A360X here and aimed it straight at my Walt Disney Tenuous. Now, I found that works so well that I went and picked up a second one to put on this Kessel over here, the A360X, to aim at my Cherry Bomb. And I have to say it's working a treat as well, so I might have to reach out to my local fish shop and swap the 50-degree reflector here and make that a 35-degree reflector as well, so I can light up another favorite acro in the middle there, because using those A360X as spotlights to give intense par into a spot where you want it is working an absolute treat. And when you see the growth on that Walt Disney, you'll have to agree with me, it is absolutely shooting off some new branches in all directions. And I'm sure that comes down to some other things as well, the flow and the water conditions, but I'm certain that the light is not hurting at all. And I'm getting those really cool colored polyps on it too. So it just looks like it is loving life, which is absolutely making my day. So I'm going to get some more of those A500X spotlight reflectors. I may even pick up another one or two A360X Kessels down the line and mount them maybe on the ends so I can angle in and get some more angles of light going, get a few more spotlights happening at various bits and pieces as the tank matures out a bit more. All right, next up on the maintenance items was topping up the media in my calcium reactor. I like to ensure that my calcium reactor is absolutely full of media. The more media in the calcium reactor, that means there is less water volume in the calcium reactor. The less water volume there is, the less CO2 you need to get your pH at the levels you want. So basically it comes down to an efficiency thing, plus just the more media, the more material there is in there to melt and supply the supplements that you need for your tank. So as soon as I saw that media drop down an inch, inch and a half, I grabbed another tub of Arm Extra Coarse and topped him right up. And while I was there, I put a brand new probe in it because when I set up that calcium reactor, I did use a secondhand probe. And whilst it calibrated up okay, I was never 100% certain if it was spot on. So I lashed out and bought a brand new probe, put it in there. Unfortunately for me, the brand new probe has a shorter lead, which makes the mounting of my pH controller a little bit awkward. I've got to tidy that up. But all in all, the calcium reactor is fresh and ready to supply all of those supplements again. All right, next up, and this is addressing the disaster from the previous update. I am grateful to say that my iodine is now back actually below the recommended levels. So the number of water changes I did and not adding any iodine and just testing all of the supplements that I've been adding to the tank to make sure there was no excess iodine in any of them has obviously worked. Plus, I think my refugium has helped pull some of that out. And also iodine does just tend to oxidize out of your aquarium over time. So I'm finally back at the level that I normally am in, which is below the recommended level for iodine. So I can probably add it back to my dosing regime, which I'll obviously be very, very careful with because the last thing I want to do is have another iodine spike, and I'll be monitoring that very closely with Trident ICP. My latest results came back and everything is looking absolutely Mickey Mouse. So I have actually recommenced my trace element supplementation. I've got some Coral Essentials and some Reef Revolution supplements there that I'll be dosing at probably 1/8 the recommended amount. Just for the next month or two, I'll do another ICP and see if it still is consuming that much. I'll up it to maybe about 1/4 of the recommended amount, then do the same thing for another couple of months, and I'll just slowly creep up on it because less is more with some of these trace elements. It's very easy to overshoot things, just like what happened with my iodine last time. So I'm going to make sure I go nice and slow, and particularly at the moment when the tank's looking so good, I just want to keep things looking good. I don't want to take it back into Brown Town. All right, next up on the changes, I have hooked up an auto water change system on this tank now with a couple of Ecotech Versas, and that's actually been running for probably a couple of months now, but I did just this week make another adjustment to it. I've now got a separate reservoir where I'm keeping some extra salty water. I'm mixing it up to about 1.036, so a good 10 points higher than where I normally aim for. And what I'm actually doing is I'm taking a little bit more water out of the tank than I'm putting into the tank. I'm doing 10-litre water change a day, but I'm actually taking 12 litres out of the tank a day, which is super easy to do with the Versas. And then what I'm doing is I'm running a little bit more Kalkwasser. So if that makes sense to you, I'm actually taking more water out of the tank than I'm putting in, so there's a deficit. I couldn't just put in 1.026 water, take more out, and then top up with Kalkwasser because eventually my salinity would drop down. So I'm running extra salty water coming into the tank, but not quite enough of it so that I can top that off with extra Kalkwasser. And that is bringing my pH back up. Came about with a conversation with a few local reefers here that were talking about their pH levels of being like 8.4, 8.5. And I was like, I'm not getting remotely near that. My tank was hovering around the 7.9 to 8.2, 8.3 region, which, to be honest, I wasn't too fussed about. It didn't really bother me all that much, but big shout out to Mez. She suggested, hey, you've got a Kalkwasser reactor on this tank. Why don't you just turn it up? And I thought about it for a couple of days and then realized that I could do that with the auto water change by putting some extra salty water in, taking more water out than I'm putting in, add the kalkwasser there, and I'm happy to say that my pH is now back up. It goes from the low point of 8.1 and a high point up to 8.5, which in my opinion is more than enough pH. We'll see how things go. As winter rolls around here, I still need to get that fresh air line feed for my skimmer. I think that'll make a big difference when we've got the gas heater running in this house. I want to make sure that it's getting plenty of CO2 free air and just good quality fresh oxygen getting drawn in via that skimmer. So it's a job I still have to get off my butt and do, but in the meantime, the kalkwasser is doing an absolute beautiful job. All right, enough of the maintenance updates and little bits and pieces. Let's go over what's the good and the bad with this Dream Reef Tank. We might start off with the bad so that I can finish off on a high. I have had another hogfish die on me. That's the second 5-lined hog that I've had die on me. This guy, well, the first one went in and got bullied straight away by the bicolor cleaner wrasse, and he only lasted a few days. I pulled him out, put him in the frag tank, got some food into him, but it was just too little too late, and he passed on me. My local fish shop went above and beyond and sourced me another 5-lined hog, which went into this system and for all intensive purposes was doing fantastic. That was after we removed the bicolor cleaner wrasse. He was in there for a good like 6-8 weeks, and unfortunately he just turned up dead one morning. So I don't know what's going on there. I didn't see any bullying. He was eating really well. It could have just been one of those things, but as far as I'm concerned, I've killed 2 of those now, and I'm not going to go for a third. I don't know what it is, but there could be some incompatibilities with the fish in my system, or some food requirements that I'm not providing them. I'm not going to be the one to kill a third one of those fish, because I would struggle to sleep at night. So it looks like my hogfish endeavors are over. Unfortunate as it is, because they're absolutely gorgeous fish, and the one that we had that we named Quinn was just looking an absolute treat in this aquarium. Really different swim pattern and size and shape from all of the other fish in the system, but as touched on, I just can't do it again. So rest in peace, Quinn, and hopefully anyone else out there running a 5-line hog can give them a better experience than I did. All right, on to the next items that were a little bit bad. I have actually had a little bit of an aptasia outbreak in this system. I don't want to say outbreak, but I did notice 2 or 3 in one location, and I treated them, and they did reduce down, and I don't know whether it was one of those things where they spawn when you treat them, or whether I just hadn't noticed before. I had a couple up under the blue stag up there, and then I noticed a whole army of them under the blue digitata there. So I basically just broke some of the digitata off. It's so easy to just snap some of that off, and got in there and treated them. And then at the same time, I added the copper band, which was a fish, particularly after losing the 5-lined hog, I was super nervous about. He did cop quite a bit of aggression when putting into the tank. Well, yeah, lack of better words, aggression. You'll notice the fox face in particular. Fox face named Colin really does not like the copper band. Thankfully, the aggression's died down now. He probably spends 5 minutes to 10 minutes a day chasing him now. Doesn't seem to affect the copper band at all. He just gets out of his way. They're not biting him. They just give that sort of spirited high-speed chase. And occasionally the Atlantic blue will, give him a bit of a sideways look and charge at him as well. But let's be honest, he does that with everyone, including me. They can be a bit of an aggressive fish. I did have the copper band in for about a week before I saw him eat, which was a pretty nervous week. In the shop that I got him from, Deer Park Aquarium, he's an Aussie hand-caught copper band, so absolute beautiful specimen, and he was eating like an absolute boss in store, but obviously with a bit of aggression in an established system with some very large fish. He did just lay off the food. He obviously didn't want to cop any beatings for it, so he just kind of hid in the corner for a good week. I eventually got to get him to, or saw him eat a little bit of frozen food. The silly fish would come and swim. When I'd feed the food, he'd come and swim through the food and basically invite all the fish to chase him without him actually eating any of the food, which was ridiculously frustrating. But now he is eating the frozen food, and when I hold the frozen cube in the tank, he'll actually come and peck some of it out of my hands. So I'm super grateful to see that he's eating now. And what was really interesting is I didn't see him pay any attention to the little aptasia outbreak that I've had at all until I started squirting them with some Aptasia X. Then he seemed to get the idea. He thought they looked interesting, and he started pecking away at them now. So I am hoping that he can reach with that long nose of his into some of those spots where they are. If not, I will simply break out some of that blue digi. It grows so quick in this system. I broke probably half of it off, and It's not even really that noticeable, even though I would love the blue digi to grow right up to the surface. Being such a fragile skeleton coral, it's probably dangerous because if it grows up that high, a fish will just swim past and break it and it'll fall on, you know, like a gold torch or something and kill it. So I don't mind breaking it down every now and then, particularly if it means that Owen, we called him Owen because he's got a bit of a bent nose. So Owen Wilson, we channeled your name and named the copper band after him. I'm kind of hoping he can get that bent nose in and eat some of those aptasias because I have seen tanks get riddled with aptasia and I don't want to be one of them. That being said, in my previous system, I had probably 10,000 aptasia in my big column weir, and I would at most see 2 or 3 in the display tank at any one time. I don't know if it's my angel who loves to nip soft squishy things like that maybe kept him at bay, or my fox face or something else, I'm not sure, but I never had an aptasia outbreak in that display. I'm hoping that same luck, touch wood, hopefully that same luck carries through with this system, but on the same hand, I'm going to approach it with some Aptasia X, and hopefully the second prong of the attack will be Owen, my copper band butterfly with a bent nose. I would be super curious to try out one of those new UVC like laser torch things, but they've been selling out pretty quickly. If I can find the funding and I can get one sent out from the US, I might just pick one of those up to try out. But in the meantime, fingers crossed for me. I'm hoping that the Aptasia X, every second or third day I go back over them just to keep them at bay. As soon as you see them start to come back up again, cover those bad boys on Aptasia X again. Once you've done that 3 or 4 times, they tend to give up and melt away. But in the meantime, Owen's going to peck away at them and hopefully keep them all at bay. All right, last but not least by any stretch of the imagination in the bad column was I recently just cleaned the weir comb on the Synergy Overflow, and when I took it off, I noticed it was, I wouldn't say full, but it had probably 3 dozen bubble algae in there. Speaking of pests, now bubble algae is an absolute pain. I know there's no shortage of discussion online at the moment about Vibrant, which has been probably the go-to treatment for bubble algae over the last couple of years. Continuum also have a very good program for bubble algae. I haven't actually seen a single bubble algae anywhere in the display tank, so I don't know why they're growing in my weir comb. I did take that off, made sure I didn't pop any, took it outside. Got rid of them all in vinegar, made sure I got it all removed from the comb, dried it out completely, and hopefully none of the spores, gave it a good rinse with RO, hopefully none of the spores made their way back in. I suspect there's probably going to be more, like every 1 bubble algae you see, there's probably another 50 or 60 in the tank. But I've gone over this tank and I can't find them anywhere. I did find the Aptasia on the rock and at the base of some corals, but I did not find any bubble algae. So again, touch wood. Hopefully no bubble algae, but should I need to, I will jump on the Continuum program, which uses a couple of different bacterial supplements and possibly algicides. I don't want to get into that debate, but it is a 2-part program that you do every day that you up the dosage, and it seemingly does a good job of bubble algae, but I'm not going to go there until I see them getting out of hand on my display, because I don't want to treat something that's not a problem just yet. All right, now we are nearing the end of this video, but I've still got all of the good to go over with my Dream Reef Tank, and I've got to say that after that iodine spike, I'm finally getting back into the realm of some good color in both my LPS and SPS, some beautiful polyp extension, which was the obvious change from when the iodine spike did occur. The polyp extension just absolutely receded. All of my acros look like they'd lost their hair overnight. So I'm really seeing some good polyp extension now, even with my dwarf angel in there just nipping at them constantly. So I know things are back into the sweet spot, and that combined with the ICP just makes me feel like I'm absolutely out of the woods, but you know what reef keeping's like, it's a constant roller coaster, so so far so good. But the LPS is looking great, the SPS is looking great, I'm getting some ridiculous growth again, which is awesome. The calcium reactor, despite being topped off, is just getting turned up and up and up. The calquas is going in, a little bit of dosing that I'm doing is going up and up and up. Things are absolutely taking off in this tank again, and some things like my cherry bomb, which has got that Kessel A500, sorry, Kessel A360X spotlight on it with their narrow reflector, is just furry and shaggy as hell and is growing really quickly. We touched on my Walt Disney, which again is super furry and growing, just, it's got like new branches just coming out in every direction, which is awesome. I'm not really planning on fragging that. I want to see it grow out in a bit of a colony, but if any of them accidentally get knocked off, I'll whack them on a tile. And yeah, my LPS and everything are all looking really good. In fact, some of the SPS issues that I've had over the last month have just been where they've grown into each other or smothered over each other. I've got a couple of pieces that have started to die off a little bit because they had acros growing into them from both sides and growing over them, which, to be honest, I don't mind. That's kind of the natural look in the reef tank I go for. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I've got a beautiful bonsai that has half died off. Hopefully the rest of it will continue on okay, but we'll see. It's got an acro growing onto it from one side, and it's got a what I think is a blue robusta growing into it from the other side, and they're both covering over it, but so far so good. Everything else, even the pieces that lost a lot of color, and I thought I had lost them, had some weird growth patterns with the iodine, have come back and are looking great now. So I'll make sure I put plenty of footage on screen now so you can see how things are going. But things like my red Monty cap down there in the corner are like almost growing in front of your eyes, which I know Monty cap grows fast, but it is good to see it growing again after a good month or two of a real stagnant period with that iodine spike. So I couldn't be happier. And apart from that, apart from losing the hogfish, my fish are all doing really good, even with the addition of the copper band butterfly. He got the usual hazing from the big guys in the tank, and he stood his ground, and now he's eating and all going well. The Atlantic blue that did put my sail fin, well, in his corner, it made me take the sail fin out, put it in my frag tank. Thankfully, hasn't shown any other full-on aggression. He does his little, dominance piece every now and then, but other than that, he doesn't bother any fish. All my other fish are looking great. I have slowly dwindled in my Anthea numbers a little bit. I think I went in with 10 or 11 and I'm down to 4 now. So that's a little disappointing, but did lose a few there, potentially throughout that iodine spike though. So I'm not going to be too hard on myself for that. All my other little fish are doing great. My clownfish are growing by the minute and their markings are just getting brighter and brighter. All my tangs are doing really well. Couldn't be happier. I even went to the trouble when I did some of that maintenance of cleaning up some of the excess snail shells in this system, and as a result the sand bed's looking a little less cluttered, and overall I'm just really happy with where the tank is at the moment, which ultimately is the aim of the game. Alright guys, we might wrap the video up there. I hope you have enjoyed the update of my Dream Reef Tank. Like I said, there's a lot of little things happening on the system at the moment, which is probably par and for the course for this tank for the next 6-12 months. So I'm not expecting any huge changes, not expecting any heap of fish or coral going in at any stage, although you never know. I am still eyeing off that incredible torch at Deer Park Aquarium, but just saving my bickies for it. We'll see little incremental updates and hopefully a lot of growth, which is really starting to happen now. That is kind of just the nature of these tanks. You don't want to be making constant changes. That's where you do upset the rhythm of your tank. Keep the changes at an absolute minimum now, and it should just find its own sort of rhythm and really take off before your eyes. And that's when you can truly sit back and say the tank is in absolute cruise control, which is realistically the aim with every system past that 12-month mark. Other than that, guys, I will wrap the video up there. If you've got any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to pop it down in the comments section down below. I do have something new coming for the channel soon. In the next few months, I'll be doing some product spotlights, not necessarily product reviews, but just product overviews, collaborating with a local fish shop in Sydney, which I'll announce at the time. That will be released midweek. Feel free to watch those if you want to see the latest and greatest in reefing products, but if you'd rather just wait till the weekend to see my tank tours, shop tours, and updates on my Dream Reef Tank, that's totally fine as well. Just giving the viewers a little bit more options out there of different things to watch. Other than that, guys, till next time, stay safe, keep reefing. Bye.